Hi everyone, I'm Jay Lai, your guide for today's economics lesson. Welcome. Today we're diving into how a monopoly makes decisions about price and output, and why monopolies can keep earning abnormal profits for a very long time, unlike firms in perfect competition. Let's get started. First, remember what we already know about perfect competition. In a perfectly competitive market, each firm is a price taker. That means the demand curve facing an individual firm is perfectly elastic, a flat horizontal line. If the firm tries to charge even a tiny bit more than the market price, it sells nothing because buyers can instantly switch to identical products from hundreds of other sellers. Those firms have zero market power. A monopoly is the complete opposite. There is only one seller in the market, and there are no close substitutes. Because of that, the monopolist is the market. So the demand curve the monopolist faces is exactly the same as the market demand curve, and that curve slopes downward. If the monopolist wants to sell more units, it has to lower the price to attract more buyers. This is really important because the demand curve slopes down. The monopolist's marginal revenue curve, which shows the extra revenue from selling one more unit, lies below the demand curve and is steeper. Why is marginal revenue lower than price? When the firm sells an extra unit, it gets the new lower price on that unit, but it also has to accept the lower price on all the previous units it was already selling. So the additional revenue from one more unit is less than the price shown on the demand curve. To decide how much to produce, the monopolist follows the same profit maximizing rule every firm uses: produce the quantity where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That's the golden rule: marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Once the monopolist finds that quantity, it looks straight up to the demand curve to see what price buyers are willing to pay for that amount. So the price is read off the demand curve, while the quantity is where marginal revenue crosses marginal cost. Next, let's talk about profit. Profit is total revenue minus total cost. On the graph, total revenue is price multiplied by quantity. That's the rectangle from the origin up to the price on the demand curve and across to the quantity. Total cost is average total cost multiplied by the same quantity, another rectangle. When price is higher than average total cost at the profit maximizing quantity, the monopolist earns an economic profit, sometimes called supernormal profit or abnormal profit. That's the extra rectangle between the demand curve and the average total cost curve. This profit is over and above normal profit, the minimum return the owner needs to stay in the business instead of doing something else with their resources. Now, here's the big difference from perfect competition, and the reason monopolies can earn abnormal profits in the long run. It comes down to three core assumptions of monopoly. First, single seller. One firm constitutes the entire industry and controls the total output. There is no competition from other producers in the market. Second, no close substitutes. Consumers have no alternative products they can easily switch to. This makes the demand for the monopolist's good relatively inelastic, meaning buyers are not very sensitive to price changes because they don't have good options elsewhere. Third, and this is the most crucial for long run profits, high barriers to entry. These barriers come in several important forms. Some are legal barriers. These are created or enforced by the government or law, and they make it illegal or extremely difficult for anyone else to enter the market. One major type is patents. A patent gives a company exclusive rights to produce, use, or sell an invention for a limited period, usually 20 years from the filing date in most countries. During that time, no one else can legally make, use, or sell the same invention without permission, even if they come up with something very similar on their own. This protects the inventor's investment in research and development. A great example is in the pharmaceutical industry. When a company develops a new drug, say a breakthrough cancer treatment, they patent it. For those 20 years, they're the only one who can sell it, so they can charge high prices and earn very large abnormal profits before generic versions are allowed after the patent expires. Another legal barrier is government licenses or permits. Governments often require official approval to operate in certain industries, and they may deliberately limit how many licenses they issue or make the application process extremely expensive, lengthy, and complicated. For instance, in many places, utilities like electricity, water supply, or waste collection are granted exclusive licenses to a single provider. It's often more efficient to have one company manage the huge infrastructure, power lines, pipes, treatment plants, rather than multiple firms duplicating everything. In the United States, the US Postal Service has a legal monopoly on delivering first class mail under federal law, so private companies cannot compete in that specific service. Exclusive franchises are similar. The government grants one firm the sole right to provide a service in a specific area or for a specific purpose. Think of cable television providers in some cities that get exclusive rights for a region or certain airport concessions, like duty free shops or ground handling services that are awarded to only one operator. These legal barriers, patents, licenses, exclusive franchises protect the incumbent by making competition illegal or practically impossible. As long as the law stands, new entrants can't break in, and the monopolist can keep earning abnormal profits without the threat of rivals driving prices down. Let me make this really clear with a fun example. Imagine you decide to quit school today and try to break into a monopoly like business. Let's say you want to build the next Facebook, the dominant social network everyone uses. All you need to do is code a brand new platform overnight. Convince your friends to switch from Facebook and Instagram to your empty app with zero users. Get billions of people worldwide to abandon the network they've spent years building connections on. Overcome the massive network effects where everyone stays because everyone else is already there. And somehow raise hundreds of billions in funding to compete with Meta's infrastructure and data advantage. Easy, right? You'd have a better chance of inventing time travel by breakfast tomorrow. Because of these extremely high barriers to entry, new firms cannot come in and increase supply when they see the monopolist earning abnormal profits. The single seller keeps control of output, the lack of close substitutes keeps demand strong, and the high entry barriers protect the firm's position. As a result, the monopolist can continue earning abnormal profits, price above average total cost year after year, even indefinitely in many cases. A classic real world example is Google. Google currently controls about 90% of the global search engine market. It processes over 14 billion searches every single day. This incredible dominance comes from powerful network effects, an enormous data advantage that keeps improving its algorithms, and massive economies of scale in computing and artificial intelligence infrastructure. New search engines find it extremely difficult to compete because users already trust Google, and the more people use it, the smarter and more useful it becomes. These extremely high barriers allow Google to maintain very strong profits over the long term. Of course, not every monopoly makes profit forever. If demand falls sharply or costs rise dramatically, the monopolist can end up making a loss, just like any firm. In that case, average total cost would sit above the demand curve at the quantity where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, and the shaded area becomes an economic loss. But the typical textbook monopoly diagram shows the profit case, and that's what we focused on today. To wrap up, here are the most important takeaways. 1. A monopolist faces a downward sloping demand curve and therefore a marginal revenue curve that lies below it. 2. The profit maximizing quantity is still where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, but price is read off the demand curve, so price is higher than marginal cost. 3. When price is above average total cost, the monopolist earns abnormal profit. 4. That abnormal profit can persist in the long run because of the three key assumptions: single seller, no close substitutes, and most importantly, high barriers to entry that block new competitors from entering and driving price down. That's the heart of how monopoly works. Very different from perfect competition. Thanks so much for joining me today. Practice drawing those diagrams a few times. They really help everything click. See you in the next lesson. Take care.